In a quiet little town surrounded by green hills and golden fields, there lived a young woman named Emma Carter. She was known for her bright smile, her kind heart, and her love for drawing. From an early age, Emma had dreamed of becoming an artist, filling galleries with her paintings and sketches. But life in her small town wasn't always easy. Her family owned a modest business that had been passed down for generations, and while it provided them with enough to live comfortably, they were far from wealthy. Emma's parents, John and Margaret Carter, worked hard every day to keep the family business afloat. They sold handmade furniture, which Emma often helped design with her artistic touch. Despite their struggles, the Carters were proud of what they had built together. However, everything changed one fateful summer when disaster struck. A series of bad investments, combined with rising debts, left the family on the brink of financial ruin. The once thriving workshop began to empty, and the bills piled up faster than they could pay them off. The weight of their troubles fell heavily on Emma's shoulders. Though she tried to stay optimistic, she couldn't ignore the worried looks exchanged between her parents or the late-night arguments that drifted through the thin walls of their home. One evening, after weeks of mounting tension, Emma overheard her parents discussing something in hushed tones. Curious, she crept closer to listen. To her shock, they were talking about arranging a marriage for her. "It's the only way, Margaret," her father said, his voice heavy with regret. "We need someone who can help us get back on our feet. Liam Harper is willing to take responsibility for Emma, and he seems like a decent man." Emma froze at the mention of Liam Harper's name. She knew him. He was a farmer who lived on the outskirts of town. He wasn't particularly handsome or charming, nor did he come from a wealthy background. In fact, most people thought of him as plain and unremarkable. His clothes were always worn, his boots scuffed, and his old truck rattled noisily whenever he drove past the main road. How could her parents even consider such a match? When Emma confronted her parents the next morning, her anger spilled out uncontrollably. "You want me to marry him?" she exclaimed, her voice trembling. "Why would you do this to me? I don't even know him." Her mother placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Emma, sweetheart, we wouldn't ask this of you if we weren't desperate. Liam may not have much, but he's honest and hardworking. And more importantly, he's offered to help us pay off our debts." "But what about my dreams?" Emma cried. "What about my art? You're asking me to give up everything I've ever wanted." Her father sighed deeply, looking older than Emma had ever seen him. "Sometimes life doesn't give us choices. Emma, we have responsibilities to our family, to each other. This is one of those times." Reluctantly, Emma agreed to meet Liam. Deep down, she hoped that maybe her parents were wrong, that perhaps Liam wasn't as dull or ordinary as everyone thought. But when she finally came face to face with him, her hopes quickly faded. Dressed in faded jeans and a flannel shirt, Liam greeted her with a shy smile and a firm handshake. There was nothing extraordinary about him. No spark, no charm, nothing that made her heart race. Over the next few weeks, Emma tried to convince herself that marrying Liam wouldn't be so bad. After all, he seemed polite enough and he clearly cared about his farm. Still, the thought of spending the rest of her life with someone she barely knew, and someone who appeared to have so little to offer, filled her with dread. On the day of their wedding, Emma stood before the altar, dressed in a simple white gown borrowed from a neighbor. As she glanced at Liam standing beside her, she felt a wave of bitterness wash over her. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being forced into a life she didn't choose, all because of her family's mistakes. But Liam, for his part, remained calm and composed throughout the ceremony. He spoke his vows softly but sincerely, his eyes never leaving Emma's face. Though she refused to look at him directly, Emma couldn't help but notice the warmth in his gaze. It was almost as if he understood her pain and wanted to reassure her somehow. As the newlyweds drove away from the church in Liam's rickety truck, Emma stared out the window, lost in thought. She wondered if she would ever find happiness again, or if this was simply the end of her dreams. Little did she know, however, that her new husband carried secrets far greater than she could imagine. Secrets that would soon turn her world upside down in ways she never expected. For now, though, Emma remained trapped in her own resentment, unaware that the man sitting beside her was anything but ordinary. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the countryside, the couple embarked on a journey that would test their patience, challenge their assumptions, and ultimately reveal the true meaning of love. The first few months of Emma and Liam's marriage were awkward and strained. Both of them tried to adjust to their new life together, but the gap between them seemed wider than ever. Emma, still bitter about being forced into the marriage, kept her distance from Liam. She told herself that she didn't owe him anything, not her affection, not her trust, and certainly not her gratitude. Every morning she woke up earlier than necessary just to avoid spending too much time with him. Her days were filled with chores around the house, gardening, and occasionally sketching in her notebook when she thought no one was watching. Liam, on the other hand, went about his routine as if nothing had changed. He worked tirelessly on his farm during the day, tending to crops and animals with quiet dedication. Despite Emma's cold demeanor, he never complained or pushed her to open up. Instead, he made small gestures to show his care, fixing a leaky faucet she hadn't mentioned, bringing her a cup of tea when she stayed up late drawing, or leaving fresh flowers on the kitchen table. But Emma dismissed these acts of kindness as mere politeness, convinced they were part of some hidden agenda. One evening, after a long day of work, Emma sat at the dining table flipping through an old art magazine. She sighed wistfully as she looked at the vibrant paintings and intricate sketches inside. "I'll probably never be good enough for something like this," she muttered under her breath, unaware that Liam was standing nearby. "You're already good enough," Liam said, softly, surprising her. "Your drawings are beautiful, Emma. You have real talent." Emma glanced at him sharply, unsure how to respond. For a moment she considered thanking him, but then suspicion crept into her mind. Was he mocking her, trying to win her over with empty compliments? She quickly closed the magazine and stood up. "Thanks," she said curtly, "but I don't need your opinion." Liam didn't argue. He simply nodded and walked away, leaving Emma feeling more conflicted than before. Why did he have to say things like that? Didn't he realize it only made her feel worse? As the weeks passed, Emma began noticing strange things about Liam. Late at night, when she assumed he was asleep, she would hear him talking quietly on the phone. Sometimes the conversations were brief. Other times they stretched on for what felt like hours. Curious and slightly suspicious, Emma started paying closer attention. One night, while passing by his study, she caught snippets of his words. Quarterly earnings, investment portfolio, and even global expansion. These weren't terms a simple farmer used, were they? Her curiosity turned into suspicion, and soon Emma found herself snooping through Liam's belongings when he wasn't home. She rummaged through drawers, flipped through notebooks, and even checked the contents of his desk. What she discovered left her baffled. The notebooks were filled with detailed notes, charts, graphs, financial calculations, and plans for projects ranging from eco-friendly farming techniques to renewable energy initiatives. There were also sketches of designs for machinery and inventions she couldn't quite understand. At first, Emma thought maybe Liam was moonlighting as an inventor or working on some side business. But none of it added up. How could someone who claimed to be a struggling farmer afford to spend so much time on such ambitious ideas? And why would he hide all of this from her? Determined to uncover the truth, Emma decided to confront him. One evening, after dinner, she waited until they were alone in the living room. "Liam," she began hesitantly, "I need to ask you something." He looked up from the book he was reading, his expression calm but curious. "Of course. What is it?" "I've noticed. Well, I've heard you talking on the phone late at night, and I saw some of your notebooks," she admitted, her voice growing firmer. "What's going on? Are you hiding something from me?" For a moment, Liam said nothing. His eyes searched hers as if trying to gauge how much she already knew. Finally, he sighed and set the book aside. "Emma, I'm not hiding anything malicious," he said slowly. "But yes, there are parts of my life I haven't shared with you yet." "Like what?" she pressed, her frustration rising. "Are you in trouble? Is that why you agreed to marry me? To use my family's debt as some kind of cover?" "No, it's nothing like that," Liam replied firmly. Then, after a pause, he continued, Let's just say I've had experiences in the past that shaped who I am today. Experiences that taught me the value of simplicity and hard work. That's why I live the way I do now. Emma frowned, unconvinced. That doesn't explain the calls or the notebooks. If you're not hiding anything, then why can't you tell me the truth? Liam hesitated again, clearly torn between wanting to protect his privacy and needing to reassure her. I will tell you everything, he promised. But not tonight. It's complicated, and I want to make sure you understand where I'm coming from. Emma felt her anger bubbling to the surface. You keep saying you'll explain, but you never do. How am I supposed to trust you if you won't even be honest with me? Before Liam could respond, she stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. That night, they slept in separate beds for the first time since their marriage. The silence between them was deafening, filled with unanswered questions and unresolved emotions. Despite her fury, Emma couldn't shake the nagging feeling that she might have misjudged Liam. Beneath his quiet exterior, there was a depth to him that she hadn't fully explored. His kindness, his intelligence, and even his mysterious behavior hinted at a complexity she hadn't anticipated. Yet her pride and resentment held her back from giving him the benefit of the doubt. Over the next few days, tension lingered in the air. They spoke only when necessary, exchanging polite but distant words. Emma threw herself into her artwork, using it as an escape from the turmoil in her mind. Meanwhile, Liam continued his daily routines, seemingly unfazed by their argument. But deep down, both of them knew that things couldn't stay this way forever. One afternoon, as Emma wandered through the fields near the farm, she stumbled upon Liam repairing a broken fence. Watching him work, she noticed the strength in his hands, the focus in his eyes, and the way he moved with purpose. For the first time, she allowed herself to wonder if there was more to him than met the eye. Could it be possible that the man she had married wasn't the simple farmer everyone believed him to be? The question gnawed at her, refusing to let go. Little did she know, the answers were closer than she imagined, and they would change everything she thought she knew about Liam Harper. The tension between Emma and Liam continued to simmer, growing heavier with each passing day. Though they lived under the same roof, it felt as though an invisible wall had been erected between them. Emma tried to focus on her art, pouring her emotions into her sketches and paintings, but even her creativity couldn't distract her from the questions swirling in her mind. Who was Liam Harper really? And why did he seem so determined to keep parts of his life hidden? Liam, for his part, remained patient and calm, never pushing Emma or forcing her to talk. He carried on with his daily tasks, working tirelessly on the farm and tending to their small home with quiet efficiency. But despite his outward composure, Emma could sense that something was weighing on him. There were moments when she caught him looking at her with a mixture of sadness and longing, as if he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. One stormy evening, the rain lashing against the windows and the wind howling outside, Emma found herself unable to concentrate on her artwork. She sat by the fireplace, staring into the flickering flames, her thoughts consumed by Liam. The notebook she had discovered weeks earlier still haunted her. Those cryptic notes about investments and global projects didn't belong to a simple farmer. They belonged to someone far more sophisticated. Yet, every time she confronted him, he evaded her questions, leaving her more frustrated than before. As the clock struck 9, Liam entered the living room carrying 2 steaming mugs of tea. He handed one to Emma without saying a word, then settled into the armchair across from her. For a while, neither of them spoke, the only sounds coming from the crackling fire and the relentless rain outside. Finally, Emma broke the silence. "Why won't you tell me the truth?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and desperation. "You must know how confusing this is for me. I feel like I don't even know who you are." Liam sighed deeply, setting his mug down on the side table. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, and looked directly at Emma. "I understand why you're upset," he said softly. "And you're right. I haven't been completely honest with you. But it's not because I don't trust you. It's because I'm afraid of what you'll think of me once you know everything. Emma frowned, her curiosity piqued. What do you mean? Afraid of what? Liam hesitated, clearly struggling to find the right words. When I was younger, I built a successful company, a tech startup. It grew faster than I ever imagined, and eventually I sold it for, well, let's just say it made me very wealthy. Emma's eyes widened in shock. Wealthy? She repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. How wealthy? Enough to never have to work another day in my life, Liam admitted, his tone tinged with both pride and regret. But money wasn't what I wanted. All I cared about was creating something meaningful, something that could make a difference. Once I achieved that, I realized I didn't need the fame or the fortune that came with it. So, I walked away. I sold most of my shares, donated a large portion of my earnings to charity, and moved here to live a simpler life. Emma stared at him, her mind racing. This revelation was almost too much to process. The man sitting across from her, the man she had dismissed as plain and unremarkable, was actually one of the richest people she'd ever met. But instead of feeling relieved or impressed, she felt betrayed. If you're so rich, why didn't you tell me sooner? She demanded, her voice rising. Why did you let me believe you were just some poor farmer? Did you think it would be funny to watch me struggle? To see me resent you for something that wasn't even true? No, Emma, that's not it at all, Liam said quickly, his expression filled with genuine remorse. I didn't want you or anyone else to treat me differently because of my wealth. When we first met, I saw how unhappy you were about the arrangement. I thought if you knew the truth, it would only make things worse. You already felt trapped. I didn't want you to think I was using my money to buy your affection or your family's loyalty. Emma shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. It doesn't matter what your reasons were, she said bitterly. The fact is you lied to me. You let me judge you, hate you, and accuse you of things that weren't true. How can I trust you now? Liam reached out toward her, but she pulled away, wrapping her arms around herself protectively. I know I messed up, he said earnestly, and I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you if I have to. But please, try to see things from my perspective. I've spent years trying to escape the shadow of my wealth, to prove that I'm more than just a bank account. I fell in love with you, Emma, with your kindness, your passion, your talent. I didn't want you to look at me differently because of what I used to be. Emma wiped her tears with the back of her hand, her heart torn between anger and confusion. Part of her wanted to lash out, to scream at him for keeping such a huge secret, but another part of her, a quieter, softer part, couldn't ignore the sincerity in his voice. He truly believed he was doing the right thing, even if his methods had hurt her. That night, they went to bed without resolving anything. Emma lay, awake, staring at the ceiling, her mind replaying every conversation, every interaction she'd had with Liam since their wedding. She remembered the way he always seemed to anticipate her needs, the gentle way he encouraged her art, the quiet strength he showed in difficult moments. Could it be possible that she had misjudged him entirely? The next morning, Emma woke up to find Liam already outside, repairing a broken gate. The rain from the previous night had left the ground muddy, but he worked diligently, oblivious to the mess. Watching him from the window, Emma felt a pang of guilt. Despite everything, he had never stopped caring for her, never stopped trying to make her happy. Wasn't that worth something? Later that afternoon, as Emma sorted through some old boxes in the attic, she stumbled upon a stack of letters addressed to Liam. They were from various organizations thanking him for his generous donations, charities, focused on education, healthcare, and environmental conservation. One letter in particular stood out. It was from a foundation supporting young artists, praising Liam for his commitment to nurturing creative talent. Emma's hands trembled as she read the words. Slowly, pieces of the puzzle began falling into place. Liam wasn't just a billionaire. He was someone who used his wealth to help others, someone who valued art and innovation as much as she did. Maybe he hadn't told her the truth about his past, but his actions spoke volumes about the kind of person he was. By the time Liam returned from the fields, Emma had made up her mind. She greeted him at the door, holding the stack of letters in her hands. "I found these," she said softly, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. "Is this who you really are, Liam? Someone who gives back, who cares about making the world a better place?" Liam nodded, his eyes searching hers. "Yes," he replied simply. "That's who I've always tried to be." Emma took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her resentment slowly lifting. "Then maybe it's time we start over," she said, managing a small smile. "Because I think I've been judging you based on lies I told myself, not the truth about who you are." For the first time in months, Liam smiled back, a genuine, heartfelt smile that lit up his entire face. In that moment, Emma realized that their journey was far from over, but together, they might just find a way to build something real, something beautiful out of the cracks in their fragile beginning. The days that followed Emma's discovery of Liam's true identity were a turning point in their relationship. While the initial shock had given way to a fragile understanding, both of them knew there was still much work to be done. Trust, once broken, wasn't easily repaired, but they were determined to try. For Emma, this meant letting go of her resentment and opening herself up to the possibility that Liam was more than the man she thought she had married. For Liam, it meant proving to Emma, not through words, but through actions, that his love for her was genuine. One crisp morning, as golden sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, Liam approached Emma with an idea. "I've been thinking," he said hesitantly, "maybe it's time you saw more of my world. Not because I want to impress you, but because I think it might help you understand me better." Emma looked up from her sketchpad, surprised by his suggestion. "What do you mean?" she asked cautiously. "There's a medical appointment I need to attend in the city tomorrow," Liam explained. "It's nothing serious, just routine. But I'd like you to come with me. Maybe we can grab lunch afterward, take a walk around town. It could be nice." Emma hesitated. The thought of leaving the comfort of their small town and stepping into what she now realized was Liam's vastly different reality made her nervous. Yet deep down she knew this was an opportunity she couldn't pass up. If she wanted to truly understand him, she needed to see beyond the farm, beyond the worn boots and patched-up truck. She nodded slowly. "Okay," she said. "Let's go." The next day, as they drove toward the city, Emma couldn't help but notice how Liam's demeanor changed. He seemed more alert, more confident, as if he were slipping into a role he hadn't played in years. The closer they got to the bustling streets and towering skyscrapers, the more Emma felt out of place. Her simple clothes and modest jewelry stood in stark contrast to the polished suits and designer handbags of the people passing by. At the hospital, Liam handled the check-in process with ease, chatting casually with the receptionist as if he belonged there. Emma trailed behind him, feeling increasingly out of her depth. But it was during the wait in the lobby that something unexpected happened. A well-dressed man approached Liam, greeting him warmly. "Liam Harper, long time no see," the stranger exclaimed, shaking his hand enthusiastically. "Good to see you too, Mark," Liam replied with a smile. Turning to Emma, he added, "This is Emma, my wife." Mark's eyes widened slightly, clearly taken aback. "Wife? Well, congratulations. You kept that quiet." Then, addressing Emma, he said, "You're a lucky woman, Mrs. Harper. This guy's one of the sharpest minds I've ever met." Emma forced a polite smile, her mind racing. Who was this man? And why did he speak about Liam as though he were some kind of celebrity? After the brief encounter, Liam led Emma to a quiet corner of the waiting area. Sensing her unease, he placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "I know this must feel overwhelming," he said gently, "but I promise I'll explain everything when we're done here." Later that afternoon, after the appointment, they stopped at a cafe overlooking the city skyline. As they sipped their coffee, Emma finally voiced the question that had been nagging at her all day. "Why didn't anyone in town know who you really are?" she asked bluntly. "You could have told them, shown them your success. Why keep living like you're nobody?" Liam leaned back in his chair, gazing out at the horizon. Because being somebody comes with a price, he admitted. When you're wealthy, people see the number in your bank account. Before they see you, they treat you differently, not always in bad ways, but it changes the dynamic. Relationships become transactional. Friendships lose their authenticity. That's why I chose to leave that life behind. Here in this town, I'm just Liam, the farmer, the neighbor, the guy who fixes fences. People don't care about my money, they care about who I am. Emma listened intently, her anger softening with each word. But what about me? She asked softly. Did you think I wouldn't care either way? Liam sighed, his expression pained. I didn't know how to tell you without ruining everything. When we first met, you were so unhappy about the marriage. I thought if you knew the truth, it would only make things worse. You already felt trapped. I didn't want you to think I was flaunting my wealth or using it to manipulate you. Emma stared at him, her heart heavy with conflicting emotions. On one hand, she understood his reasoning. On the other, the secrecy still stung. I wish you'd trusted me enough to tell me sooner, she said quietly. It's hard to rebuild trust when it feels like half of what I believed was a lie. Liam reached across the table, taking her hand in his. I know, he said earnestly, and I'll spend every day earning that trust back. But please give me a chance to show you who I really am, not just the billionaire, but the man who loves you. Their conversation continued long after they left the cafe, wandering through the city streets. Liam pointed out landmarks, shared stories about his past, and even introduced Emma to a few acquaintances along the way. With each new revelation, Emma began to see Liam in a different light. He wasn't just the quiet farmer she had married. He was a visionary, a philanthropist, and a man deeply committed to making a difference in the world. That evening, as they returned to their small town, Emma felt a shift within herself. Though she still had questions and lingering doubts, she couldn't deny the admiration growing in her heart. Liam wasn't perfect, he had made mistakes just as she had, but his intentions had always been good. And perhaps that was enough to start rebuilding what they had lost. Over the following weeks, Emma threw herself into learning more about Liam's life. She accompanied him to meetings with investors, visited art galleries where his charitable contributions had funded exhibitions, and even helped him brainstorm ideas for new eco-friendly projects. Each experience brought them closer together, bridging the gap that had once seemed insurmountable. One evening, as they sat side by side, on the porch watching the sunset, Emma turned to Liam with a thoughtful expression. You know, she said, I used to dream of traveling the world, seeing all the beautiful places and meeting fascinating people. But now I realize that sometimes the most extraordinary journeys begin right where you are, with the person sitting next to you. Liam smiled, squeezing her hand. I couldn't agree more, he said. And maybe, just maybe, we'll get to travel the world together someday. But for now, I'm happy right here, with you. As the sky turned shades of orange and pink, Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her. Their journey had been far from easy, filled with misunderstandings and misjudgments. But through it all, they had found something rare and precious. A love, built not on appearances or assumptions, but on honesty, vulnerability, and a shared desire to grow together. Months had passed since Emma and Liam began rebuilding their relationship, and the changes in their lives were undeniable. What had started as a marriage of obligation and misunderstanding had transformed into something far deeper, a partnership rooted in trust, respect, and mutual admiration. Emma no longer saw Liam as the secretive farmer who had deceived her. Instead, she saw him for who he truly was, a man of integrity, compassion, and boundless potential. And Liam, in turn, cherished the way Emma embraced his world while staying true to herself. One sunny afternoon, as they strolled through the local farmers' market together, Emma noticed how effortlessly Liam interacted with the townsfolk. He greeted everyone by name, asked about their families, and offered advice on crops or livestock when needed. To the people of their small town, Liam was still just the farmer, and that was exactly how he liked it. But now, Emma understood the weight of his choice, to live simply, to prioritize connection over status. and she admired him all the more for it. As they browsed the stalls, Emma paused in front of a display of fresh flowers. The vibrant colors reminded her of the bouquet Liam had once left on their kitchen table during those early strained days of their marriage. Smiling softly, she picked out a bunch of sunflowers and handed them to Liam. "For you," she said, her voice warm, "because you're always brightening my day, even when I don't deserve it." Liam chuckled, accepting the flowers with a grin. "You've come a long way from slamming doors and storming off, haven't you?" he teased gently, his eyes twinkling. Emma laughed, playfully nudging him. "Don't push your luck, Harper." Despite the light-hearted banter, both of them knew how far they'd come. Their journey hadn't been easy, but it had taught them valuable lessons about patience, forgiveness, and the importance of looking beyond surface-level judgments. Inspired by Liam's passion for innovation and giving back, Emma decided to channel her artistic talents into something meaningful. With Liam's support, she began creating murals and installations for community spaces, schools, libraries, and parks that celebrated the beauty of nature and the resilience of the human spirit. Her work quickly gained attention, not only within their town but also beyond. Local newspapers featured her art, and soon, invitations to exhibit in nearby cities began pouring in. One evening, as Emma stood in front of a newly completed mural, depicting farmers working alongside fields of golden wheat, she felt a surge of pride. The piece was dedicated to Liam, capturing the essence of his humility and dedication. When he arrived to see it for the first time, his eyes filled with emotion. "This is incredible, Emma," he said, his voice thick with gratitude. "It's like you've painted my soul." Emma blushed, brushing a strand of hair behind her. "Cursi, I wanted to honor everything you've done for me, for this town, for the world. You inspire me every single day." Liam pulled her into a tight embrace, holding her close as if afraid to let go. "And you remind me why I chose this life," he whispered. "Not for simplicity, but for moments like this. Moments with you." Their shared dreams didn't stop there. Together, they founded a charity aimed at supporting struggling artists and farmers, the two passions closest to their hearts. Using Liam's resources and Emma's creativity, they established workshops, grants, and mentorship programs designed to empower others to pursue their dreams. The initiative became a beacon of hope for many, drawing participants from across the country. At the grand opening of their first community center, Emma delivered a speech that left the audience in tears. "When I first came to this town, I thought my dreams were slipping away," she confessed, her voice steady despite the lump in her throat. "But sometimes life gives us detours. Not to derail us, but to lead us to something even greater. For me, that something turned out to be love, purpose, and the chance to make a difference." As she stepped down from the podium, Liam met her with open arms, pulling her into a kiss that earned cheers and applause from the crowd. In that moment, surrounded by friends, family, and strangers whose lives they had touched, Emma realized she had found everything she had ever wanted, and more. In the years that followed, Emma and Liam continued to grow together, navigating challenges and celebrating victories as a team. They traveled the world, exploring new cultures and landscapes, but their hearts always remained anchored in their little town. It was there, amidst the rolling hills and golden fields, that they had discovered the true meaning of love. On the fifth anniversary of their marriage, Liam surprised Emma with a gift unlike any other: a beautifully restored barn converted into an art studio. Inside, the walls were adorned with her sketches and paintings, each piece telling a story of their journey together. At the center of the room stood a canvas waiting to be filled, accompanied by a note written in Liam's handwriting: "For all the masterpieces yet to come." Tears streaming down her face, Emma turned to him. "How do you always know exactly what I need?" Liam smiled, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Because loving you means knowing you, your hopes, your fears, your dreams. And because I'll never stop trying to make you happy." As they danced under the soft glow of string lights strung across the ceiling, Emma felt a profound sense of gratitude. She had entered this marriage feeling trapped and resentful, but she had emerged with a love so deep and unwavering that it defied explanation. Liam wasn't just her husband. He was her partner, her confidant, her greatest cheerleader. And though their story had begun with secrets and misunderstandings, it had blossomed into something extraordinary, a testament to the power of second chances, the beauty of seeing beyond appearances, and the magic of finding love in the most unexpected places. Under the starlit sky, with the scent of fresh paint and wildflowers lingering in the air, Emma and Liam promised to keep writing their story, one brushstroke, one conversation, one shared dream at a time. Because in the end, the greatest masterpiece they would ever create wasn't a painting or a project. It was the life they had built together,